Hello, old friends. Hello, new friends. This is Randy Jimmy James Bowles, and I would like to say a very special hello to anyone who's watching who grew up in Yakima, Washington, because, yep, this is one of my Randy's Ramblins Yakima stories. It's all about a warm, sunny Yakima day in 1964. 64. My guitar says hello. This is a 1960s Silvertone guitar, the first guitar I ever owned. And it insisted that I put it in this story. I said, why? And it said, synchronicity. So, visual aids. But this is a story about how a whole bunch of us teenagers gathered together on a very nice, warm Yakima summer afternoon at the Capitol Theater to watch the Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles. Okay. They weren't there in person, but they did come to us on celluloid or film. We came to see the premiere of their great new movie. And did we have the time of our lives? Yes, we did. I'm going to start reading this to you. You can sit back and relax. Close your eyes if you want, but spoiler alert, I'm doing a costume change halfway through the story, so you might want to keep your eyes peeled for that. But right now you'll notice how I'm getting larger because I'm getting close to the screen so I can read this to you. It's published on my blog. You can find that at Randy Bowles WordPress. I recently revised the story to keep it up to date, so this is as current as a story from 1964 could ever be. It's called A Hard Day's Night at Yakima's Capitol Theater. Thanks to Turner Classic Movies Network's airing of a great innovative film on a recent Saturday night, I found myself looking back on one of the big events of my life. The particular event also took place on a Saturday, but it happened in 1964. In the summer of 64, the Beatles, who changed what popular music sounded like, what fashion looked like, what was considered groovy or grotty, announced the release of an LP and a movie, both entitled A Hard Day's Night. All around the world, teenagers anxiously awaited their chance to see and hear the new creations from the Fab Four. In Yakima, the Capitol Theater was the venue where the movie's premiere was slated to take place. And I was there. Were you? Those of us who were enjoyed an amazing summer Saturday afternoon that we'll most likely never, ever forget. Arriving around noon, we Beatles superfans, dressed in our coolest Brit fashions, clothes for teenagers to quote the movie, bought at stores like the Bon Marché and People's, paid for our tickets, formed a long line snaking around the block, and began our seemingly endless wait for the Capitol's doors to swing open. The line was composed pretty much equally of boys and girls, and I doubt anyone beyond college age was in attendance. By the way, not to be outdone, I was wearing my very own Beatle boots I'd purchased the beautiful black boots to wear when I played rhythm guitar in the Esquires, a Natchez surf rock band I joined when I was 14, my first band. The Capitol's massive doors finally swung, and we streamed into the theater, stopping for a sec in the lobby to stock up on hot buttered popcorn, junior mints, bonbons, sodas, our favorite treats. Then we moved through the inner doors, walked down the carpeted sloping ramp, and found our seats. The excitement in the air was palpable. Everyone was chattering away, laughing, gossiping, meeting new people, but mainly waiting in the historic theater for one of teenage Yakima's biggest moments to begin. Now, we had yet to refer to the Capitol Theater as historic. That's a modern day description. Suddenly, I heard a bunch of girls scream, so I looked around and I saw Rob Haney, a Davis High student, running to the front of the theater where, wearing a big smile, he waved to everybody. The girls were screaming because long-haired Rob looked an awful lot like Paul. It was definitely Rob's big day. I don't know how he got away with sporting a Beatle haircut. At my school, West Valley High, a boy got sent home from school for wearing long locks because grown-ups. Finally, the lights dimmed to the point where the Capitol became completely dark, and then we heard that opening chord. You know the one. A hard day's night had begun, and it was like watching someone land on the moon or something. It was just amazing. One of the best parts of the movie, filmed artistically in black and white, was getting to see John, Paul, George, and Ringo sing and play. The boys performed a bunch of great songs, many of which were brand new to us Yakima Beatlemaniacs. Each and every time a certain Beatle was shown playing his instrument, those audience members who considered him their favorite would yell and scream. I even got in on the act, yelling, "Ringo!" whenever my favorite Beatle was shown, shaking his head with hair flying, while he pounded away on the drums, harder than any drummer I'd ever seen. Occasionally the screaming became so loud that it was hard to hear the songs, just like at one of their concerts. Periodically, the big auditorium got quieter. For example, when Ringo took his long walk along the river, going parading, while an instrumental version of This Boy played in the background. But most of the time, there was a good deal of audience participation in the form of screaming, yelling, and even crying. No pun intended, but the funny thing about the movie is it was a comedy. The Beatles could have just put together a bunch of backstage scenes and shots of them performing and called it a movie, but they took the extra step and made a hilarious film. I recently learned that virtually every line was scripted. I found that surprising because the Fab Four's banter was so authentic and casual. It turns out that one of the film's writers spent a good deal of time with each Beatle in order to nail down each one's style. The witticisms and figures of speech in the movie came rapid fire, each topping the preceding one. Honestly, the movie helped change the way the world talked. And now, just thought I'd do this for you. I thought it was so much fun to see Paul's grandfather, the clean old man, get into mischief. I loved his spunk. I find it pretty darn funny to realize that I've surpassed him in age. I just celebrated 74 years on April 8th. Well, at least I'm a clean old man. And if you don't believe me, I've got his hat and his glasses. And I'll just finish out the story as the clean old man. As much as I enjoyed the antics of Paul's grandfather, my favorite scene was the one that featured John Lennon dressed in his signature cap, playing with a tub full of toys as he sang "Rule Britannia." Imagine a grown man submerged in a mountain of suds, sinking a toy boat before he himself disappeared beneath the waves. Beneath the waves. That's from Yellow Submarine. Well, after a truckload of popcorn, candy, and soda was consumed by the crowd of ecstatic young people, after a dozen dynamite Beatles songs were played, and after a truly amazing 87 minutes of pure fun took place, a hard day's night had to come to an end, and a theater full of exhausted, totally entertained teenagers slowly filed out of the Capitol to be met by that famous Yakima sunshine, lives forever changed. That's the main feature, but here's a short feature for you. I imagine the movie soundtrack LP with its iconic red, white, and black color scheme literally flew out of the record bins of the Bon Marché and other Yakima record dealers. I know my girlfriend Janie Will got herself a copy. We listened to it constantly in her room at her family's apartment near West Park. We learned about tender, ardent teenage love while If I Fell played on Janie's record player. Oh, you know what? It was the Beatles who influenced me to become a musician. I've been playing guitar now for 60 years. Not long after seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, I asked my folks to get me not a guitar, but a set of drums. I was crazy about Ringo's great playing. However, Mom and Dad said, "We don't really want a noisy set of drums in the house, but we'll buy you a guitar." What was I to say but yes? Then when it arrived in the mail from Sears, I didn't like it because it wasn't a set of drums, which would someday loom large in my legend, to quote George Harrison. But my best friend forever, Tony Rogers, came over one afternoon, picked up the new guitar in our rec room, and by the way, there it is. It was a cheap little Silvertone acoustic and played Louie Louie on 2 strings. I was knocked out. I asked him to show me how to play the song, which he was glad to do, and I became a guitar player. Hey, does anyone out there know how things turned out for Tony Rogers from West Valley High School? I can't even find a picture of him in our annual. And that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're still having a great deal of fun out there. I know I am, and I'm going to keep it up because I'm a clean old man.